Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Today, I am going to be showing you how to build this multi-agent inbound lead capture, speed lead, whatever you want to call it, within N8N. Not only am I going to be showing you how to build it step by step, I'm also going to be giving it to you away for free in the description below, so that way you can either implement it into your own business, play around with it, or even just learn how to use it. But before we jump into how to build it, you guys know the drill. I'm going to show you guys how it works once it's completed, and then I'm going to go through the painful PowerPoint slide, just a little bit of learning, and then we're going to build it step by step. All right, so grab your note paper, grab your pen. This one's going to be awesome. Okay, first things first, we're going to head over to my agency's website, and we're going to act like a client that is coming to give us their information or inquiring. So if we scroll down to one of our CTAs here, like book my free strategy call, it's going to bring us to a form where we're going to have to input our information to submit our inquiry. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so we just took the time to fill out the form real quick as a real client would, and we just did Jeff Bezos. We did my email, so that way we can demonstrate the actual email that the system will send to the new inquiry. The website we chose to scrape was Instantly.ai, which there's a link below in the description to sign up for if you're doing anything cold email. It is the absolute best cold email software I've ever seen. So we're just going to go ahead and scrape them. The company name, Instantly, role, founder, and we are looking to acquire more clients through cold email. Now, since this is a test run and the system isn't actually active yet, we have to turn our webhook on and listen for a test event. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Click book my free strategy call, and the webhook should capture the form details. All right, so we went ahead and submitted the form. If we go over to our N8N, our webhook did capture the form data. You can see it here in the body key. So the next thing that we have to do, or that the system would do, is extract that body, because obviously we don't need any of this stuff. We just want the contents of the form, the inquiry's information. Now, if you can see here, it is an array. We want to change that to key value pair because we need each individual key and value. So we just run it through a code node, and we're going to extract it and parse it into key value pair. So we're just going to go ahead and pin this data. The reason why we're going to do that is just so we can keep it there. We don't have to go back and resubmit a form or anything if something goes wrong. And then now we're going to go ahead and click execute workflow. But before we do that, let's just outline what should happen. Is this agent is then going to receive the form information or the inquiry's information. It's going to call onto its CRM agent, which then has access to our Airtable CRM here. And then what's going to happen is it's going to capture that information and upload it to our CRM. Once that's finished, this agent is then going to delegate a task to its research agent, which then is going to call on an N8N workflow that we have called research agent tool. What this is going to do is take the inquiry's website. It's going to scrape it. It's going to scrape both the, you can see here, just the regular website, and then an about website, if they have an about website, just to gather more information. It's then going to summarize the data, upload it to Airtable, and then what it's also going to do is let this agent know, hey, this is the summary we got. That way it can base its email that it's going to draft and send based on the summary of the company. That way it can be a more personalized email. And then another step that's very important as well, it's then going to alert our team in Slack that, hey, we just got a new inquiry from the website. Here's their information. Here's the email we sent, and here's what they want. All right, so let's go ahead and click execute workflow and watch it all happen. So now it's going to call onto the CRM agent, upload the lead into Airtable. Great. And then after that's complete, it then knows to call onto the research agent, call onto our N8N workflow, which is the research agent tool. So once it queries that, we'll hop over there. All right, so if we go over to our Airtable CRM here, you can see that the lead that came in off of our website was captured in our CRM. It even uploaded the summary that the research agent was able to come up with. All right, and then if we check our email, I had it sent to my email. This is the email that the client would have received right after submitting the form. And you could say, hi, Jeff. Thank you for reaching out to Zangfo. I appreciate that you are looking to acquire more clients through cold email, and I'm excited to explore how we can help Instantly achieve that goal. After reviewing your website, Instantly stands out as a powerful cloud-based project management solution that enhances team collaboration and productivity. Your platform's strong integration capabilities, time-saving automation features, and emphasis on reliability are impressive and valuable points that we believe can be communicated effectively to your potential clients. At Zangflow, we specialize in AI-powered automation tailored for effective cold email campaigns designed to bring you high-quality leads aligned with your business objectives. I would love to schedule a discovery call to better understand your priorities and tailor our approach to maximize your client acquisition. Looking forward to helping Instantly grow. Best, Jordan, co-founder, Zangflow. Awesome. It did exactly what we wanted to do. It did it in a timely manner. It made it highly personalized email after someone inquired. This is exactly what we're looking for. All right. And then if you go over to our Discord, this is where our team operates. This could be WhatsApp or Telegram, Slack, even however teams operate. And then if you look, right as a lead came in, Sup Boys' new lead just came through. Their name, the founder, their role, which is founder, the company name, their email, what they're looking for, and even the email copy that was sent to them by the AI. The reason why we do this is because sometimes the AI can mess up. Obviously, with the way we prompt ours, it doesn't happen that often, but you always just want to be able to keep track of exactly what's going on with your systems. So this worked flawlessly, 10 out of 10. So now we're going to go ahead and show you how to build it. All right, as before, I know these are painful. Nobody likes a PowerPoint presentation, but I truly believe that this is absolutely necessary, not knowing how to do something, but also why we chose to do it that way. So you've heard me say speed to lead, what it is, basically why minutes equals money. And a statistic that has been proven is that 78% of customers buy from the first person that responds or the quickest responder. So, what is speed to lead? It is what it sounds like. It is the time that it takes for a business to respond after a new lead comes in. Basically, the faster you respond, the more deals you're going to close. The slower, the more opportunities you're going to lose. I want you to think about something. How many times have you, as a consumer, gone to a website, gone to someone's social media, DM them, or inquired, and haven't been contacted right away and have just moved on to the next? Or have you reached out to a roofing company or an HVAC company and inquired on their website and haven't been contacted back? How many times have you gone to the next company? That is money lost. That's why we do this. So the power of a fast response and why it's critical, backed data. I did my own research, and this is the data that I found. Responses within 5 minutes versus 30 minutes equals 20 times more likely to qualify, which 391% better at less than a minute. So leads contacted within the first 5 minutes are 100 times more likely to convert. Do you understand what I'm saying? 100 times more likely to convert if you just contact them within 5 minutes of their inquiry. 50% of buyers choose the vendor who replies first. Obviously, you want to be that one. You want to be the one that replies first because the numbers show. After 1 hour without contact, odds of contact drop by 80%. 80% of people that contact an inquiry after 1 hour automatically fall off. So why every unanswered lead is going to cost you, and it's costing you right now. If you're a business owner and you have a website, you don't have a system like this set up, I highly suggest you do this. This is the highest ROI system that you can input into your business right now, because opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative you give up. So whatever a client is value to you, whatever their value is to your company, every time you do not reply within the time frame that we discussed earlier, you are losing the bottom line. Automate or lose. Every delay is revenue passed to your competitor. Every single time you do not have a system like this in place where that you are following up or contacting with new inquiries, your competitor is getting them. So how are we going to apply it? Well, we have to audit. We have to figure out, how long do you take right now to respond to your inquiries? All channels, not just your website. The goal is less than 5 minutes, and ideally, based on the numbers, is less than a minute. So the fix to this is we're going to automate responses, alerts, plus scheduling. So if you aren't first, you're invisible. All right, now we get into the meat and potatoes. How do we actually build this system? Well, there's multiple ways. There's one, the traditional workflow, which is basically a single linear chain of steps. Basically, a form comes in, goes to Airtable, we scrape the website, email. It works, but it's rigid. If one step fails, the entire process breaks. There's no flexibility, or it doesn't have an ability to decide or adapt. So we have what we use, the multi-agent framework, specialized roles. You have the manager agent, which orchestrates and decides exactly what needs to happen. We have our CRM agent, which ensures every lead is captured in Airtable. no lost opportunities. And then we also have our research agent. This is going to scrape the company's website and summarize context. And then the manager agent once again receives those outputs from its employees or its tools and takes inputs, generates personalized emails, and also sends alerts to teams. Why did we choose this though? Is flexibility. The manager can swap, retry, or even reroute tasks. The reliability. Every agent has one job, fewer errors. Speed is agents work in parallel or near parallel, so faster lead response. Scalability is it's easy to add new employees. We can add a calendar agent, we can add an enrichment agent. So before we jump into the actual building in N8N, I want you guys to see what I do before I build a system. This is almost like writing a rough draft for a paper before you actually write the final draft of your essay. We want to map it out. So what I did here was just came into Excalidraw and I mapped out what I had in my brain and what I wanted the system to do. So if you can see here, inquiry comes in. We know that that is going to start the system. That is what needs to happen for the system to even be relevant. Once that inquiry comes in, we need to make sure that we capture the information that the client submitted on our form. And then since we decided we wanted to go with the multi-agent framework that I talked about in previous slides, we then knew we had to have a manager agent, an agent that overlooks a team of agents and orchestrates the entire process, basically delegating different tasks to experts in their fields. So if you look here, we want to capture this inquiry info and add it to our CRM. This is one of the most important parts of the process. So we know that this manager agent needs to have access to an expert CRM agent that then has access to our CRM and is prompted to then take that information and add it to the CRM. But we know that we needed to do more than just capture the lead into our CRM. We need to contact them within 5 minutes, ideally under a minute. So what we did is built this research agent that is an expert in researching and scraping websites. We gave it access to an N8N workflow that then scrapes the website, summarizes the website data, and gives it back to its manager agent that then is tasked with drafting and sending the email and alerting the team. This is a process that I do before I build any system, whether it is a very simple 4-step linear workflow or a multi-agent framework like this. That way I have an outline in my brain and how I actually want to lay it out, and I'm not just building from scratch. Also, guys, real quick, while I'm showing you how I built this, if at any point you're thinking, man, I would love to have something like this in my business, or there's another process within your business that you would want automated, I have my business email and my website linked in the description. Go ahead, reach out, and we'd love to see how we can help you. All right, now we have made it through the boring stuff, the painful stuff, and now we are on to the step-by-step build. But first, I know you guys are going to have to take the time to actually make an N8N account to be able to walk through this build. So I have a link in my description. It'll take you right to N8N's homepage. You can sign up. And then once you sign up and you're on your blank canvas just like this, go ahead and come back to the video and we'll get started. Okay, assuming that you either already have an N8N account or you just made one from the link in my description, how do we actually get started? Well, if you remember with the Excalidraw, we mapped it out. We need to capture the information from the form that the client submits. Well, how do you do that in N8N? How do you capture data from basically flying in the open web space? A webhook. So the first and the trigger of our webhook or of our system, is going to be a webhook, and we are going to set the method to post and leave it on test URL for now until you're ready to go into. Well, what do we do with this URL? What even is a webhook? Well, a webhook is a URL that is put out there in space that basically waits with a net to capture data. Think of it this way. Think of as a doorbell to a door. It basically captures the people that are at the front door and tells the people inside or our system, hey, it's time to go or time to get up or hey, they're here. So this URL in space is going to wait for this form's information, capture it, or like the doorbell, ring when the people show up at the front door to let our system know, hey, and they're going to let them in, the people or the form information. Now it's time to start with our system or party with the people. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. That's the way I explain. Well, what do we actually do with this URL? Like, how do we get it to capture our form data? Well, I highly recommend if you are new to website building or anything sort of technical, you need to use the software Lovable. It is by far the best website builder. You can literally just use plain text and it will build a website for you. But let's get into the meat and bones. How do we get this form when they click book my free strategy call to our webhook? Well, all we're going to do, I'm going to show you how great Lovable is. We're going to copy this URL. We're going to go over to Lovable, and we're going to say, I need the form submission. I need the form to submit its info, I can't spell, to this webhook and this webhook only. And we're going to go ahead and paste it in, and it is going to program this form to then point to this webhook. All right, great. So it did exactly what we wanted it to do. And just to confirm that the form points to our webhook that we want it to, we're going to go to the code, and we can see here 073DC in green. And if you look at the webhook that we posted in, 073DC. Great. So now that is done, our webhook is set up and is going to capture any information that comes through from our form. And as always, I recommend testing each step of the workflow individually instead of building the whole thing out and then realizing the trigger doesn't even work. So what we're going to do is go over to our form. We're just going to fill something out random. So we'll go j@gmail.com. It's a comma. And then we're just going to do https, and then we'll do my website, zangflow.com. Actually, we'll just do a random letter here, just keep it simple, and then that's optional. So what we're going to need to do is go over here, click listen for test event since we're using the test URL. Go ahead and submit the form, and bang. So now we know that our trigger works. That's step number 1. All right, now that we have the information from the form, so we don't have to go back and do that whole step again, we're just going to pin this data, and we're going to use it to build our entire workflow out. And if you see here, more than just what we care about actually came through. All this stuff here does not matter to us. All we care about as business owners is, hey, what did the client or the potential client submit on our form? What are they looking for, and what's their contact information? What we're going to have to do is extract that. So N8N has a beautiful node called the set node. All we're going to do is go down to body, drag it over to the value, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it simple and name it body. So it's going to extract that, and we'll go ahead and pin that over here. But if you notice, and if you're new to this, this is an array, okay? We need this to be separate keys and values for each of the form fields, because right now we can't do anything with the data separately. So what we're going to have to do is go over to here, go to code, and we're going to have to run a custom code to separate this or parse this JSON from an array to what's called key value pair. All right, so I like to name my nodes just so I can keep track of where we're at. So we'll go key value pair. All right, so I went ahead and pasted in this code. Do not worry, I'm going to be including the code and all the prompts and everything into the template down below. And no, you do not need to know how to code. I do not need to know how to code. I don't know how to code. All you do need to know is what you can do with code. We have LLMs nowadays that are very, very good at JSON. Just tell them what you need and what you want, and it will be able to, almost 99% of the time, be able to generate exactly what you're looking for. So if you could see, this array is now going to be converted into key value pair. Just like we need it, we have individual keys and values for each field of the form. So we'll go ahead and pin that. All right, now that we have our data and it's formatted correctly, if you remember the Excalibur on how we map this out, we need this to feed into our manager agent or our orchestrator agent. So if you press the plus and you go to AI agent, it will pop up right here. And let's just off the bat name it inbound lead manager, just so we know what is what. The first thing you're going to want to do once you get inside of this inbound lead manager node is you're going to want to change the user prompt from connected chat trigger, because we are not using a chat trigger. You're going to want to do define below. We want to give it our own instructions, okay? And another thing you want to do is always add a system message. This basically tells the agent who it is and the persona that it should be taking. All right, so the first thing we gave it was its system message, its role, who it is, who it's supposed to be embodying. Go ahead and pause the video. I'm also going to be including all the prompts as well in the free template down below in the description. But if you want to type it out yourself, go ahead, pause the video, but let's continue. You are the inbound lead expert manager for the AI automation agency Zangflow. You are an award-winning inbound lead expert and demand perfection out of your employees. That is who we want it to embody. Next is going to be the user message or the user prompt. These are the detailed set of instructions that we give it, basically telling it exactly what we want it to do. Once again, go ahead and pause the video, take some time to type this out yourself, or like I said before the video, you can just download the templates below and have access to the prompts. You can just copy and paste them in. I highly recommend you take some time reading it through though. That way you can learn the skill of prompt engineering. This, in my opinion, when it comes to AI automation, is the most valuable skill you can learn. Is not actually what the agent can do, but getting it to do exactly what you want it to do at a high level and at a consistent level. Okay, now that we have told our manager agent exactly who it is and what it's supposed to do, and given it a detailed set of instructions, well, we need to give it a brain and access to the tools that it's going to use to fulfill the instructions that we gave it. So for chat model, what we're going to do is go down to OpenAI chat model, and I'm going to stick with GPT 4.1 mini. The reason I'm going to do that is it was tested very good when using it as an agent's brain or LLM. It's very good at task handling and everything like that. Memory, we're just going to leave that alone for the situation. There is no ongoing discussion with the agent. It's just it's a new situation based on every inquiry. So we're going to leave memory left untouched. All right, for the tools, if you remember, we head back over to our Scala and how we map this out. Well, the tools we need to give our manager access to is one, a draft and send email, a CRM agent, and a research agent. So let's go ahead and do that now. For the first tool, since we're using the multi-agent framework, we're going to go AI agent once again, and AI agent tool is what we're going to select. And then if you remember, the second tool was also an AI agent. It was our CRM or our research agent. We're going to go ahead and click AI agent tool once again. And the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and name them. So we're going to go CRM agent here. And then we'll go back to our other agent and we will call it research agent. And then the last tool that we decided our manager agent needs access to is a Gmail tool. So we're going to go here and then we're just going to call it, we'll call it draft and send email. Okay, now we have our two tools or our two employees that it's going to delegate tasks to and the ability to draft and send the email. Now we need to actually configure and set up and prompt each tool. And I also forgot to mention that we are using Airtable for this specific system. This can be integrated with any CRM. If you choose to use Airtable because you downloaded my template for free and you want to play around with it, all you're going to have to do is go over to Airtable, make a free account, and then you're just going to have to set up the API, which N8N, once again, like I said in my last video, is absolutely perfect. Whenever you need to set up any API at all, they have documentation that walks you through everything. So all you're going to need to do is click Open Docs, whether you're setting up an OpenAI API or any integration at all. You're just going to need to click the Open Docs and follow the instructions step by step. And then once you've done that, you can come back to the video. All right, so the first thing when setting up your CRM agent, in this case, what we're going to do is give it a brain. I'm just going to do the same thing. It's just give it GPT 4.1 mini just to keep everything simple and consistent. Now, the next thing is the tool that we need to give it access to. Well, it's a CRM agent. We are using Airtable. We need to allow it to create a record because we want to take this information, the new inquiry, and actually add them to our CRM for later contact or just organization, just to maximize our revenue with every opportunity that we get. So go over here to the plus, type in Airtable or whatever CRM that you're using. And the action that we're going to do is go down here and create. Now I've already had these bases and table created, so I'm just going to go by my list and I'm going to go with my inbound leads for the base, and then the table is going to be inbound leads. And as you can see, all the fields in my CRM are going to populate. Now that we gave it a brain and we gave it a tool that we needed to be able to accomplish the task that it's going to be given by its manager, we now need to give it a description and a user message. For the description of the tool, this is us telling the manager agent what this tool or what this employee does and what it should be tasked to do. So this is your CRM employee. His job is to take in the inquiry's information and add it to Zangflow's Airtable CRM. This is the first employee that you're going to delegate a task to because the most important part of this process is capturing them into our CRM. Now, since this is an agentic workflow, a multi-agent framework, for the user message, we're going to turn on let the model define its parameter. So if you remember, the user message is basically a set of instructions that we give the agent to perform. So what makes this truly agentic is we're going to let the manager tell this agent exactly what it wants it to do based on the information it receives. Pretty cool. So when we go down to the tool we gave it to, we're also going to do that. We're going to let now the CRM agent that has been told by its boss what to do, we're also going to let it decide how to map out and upload to these fields. So we're just going to click let the model define this parameter for every single field. Now, for protective measure, what we're going to do is this option right here that says enable model fallback. We're going to check that on. What this does is it just adds in a little bit of protection when the system is going on. Because let's say you've run out of API credits or token credits or whatever in OpenAI, or their servers are down. You don't want your system to completely break. So we're going to add a fallback model that uses a different company. Like in this case, we're going to use Anthropic. So if you go down to Open Router, we're going to type in Anthropic. And once again, just go ahead and make an Open Router account, and then you know the drill. Just click this pencil here, and then click the documents. It'll show you exactly how to set up a credential. So we're going to choose Anthropic Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So what this means, once again, is that if our primary model bugs out, errors, anything happens with this one, we are going to then use this brain as a fallback. That way our system just has a little bit more protection against errors. All right, so let's do a mental checklist so far. We have our inbound lead manager. We have the system message, the user message. We've given it access to all three tools that it needs. Its CRM agent now has a tool description. The user prompt is going to be defined by the model itself, and a fallback model in case this one goes wrong. We also gave it access to the necessary tool for it to accomplish its job. All right, next we're going to move over to our research agent. So we're going to go over here to OpenAI. Once again, we're just going to use GPT 4.1 mini. Like I said, you can use whatever model you want. I'm just going to keep it consistent across the board just for the video's purpose and just keep things simple. All right, once again, we need to give our agent a description, basically telling the manager what this employee does, what it has access to, and what you're going to use it for. All right, so the description that we gave it was this is your research employee after your CRM employee has finished his task of capturing the inquiry's info and adding it to the CRM. You delegate a task to this employee, which is to take the inquiry's information, or excuse me, the inquiry's website and research them to give Jordan, the founder of Zenflow, a summary on his new inquiry. And then once again, we're just going to let the user message, the task, the set of instructions be defined by the boss or the manager. And we'll just go down here, enable fallback model, and we'll go down to open router once again, and we're just going to use Anthropic Claude 3.5 Sonnet. All right, for the tool, for the research agent, this is where it gets a little more complex. Slow down the video if you need to, but this is where we're going to get in a tool that is called Call N8N Workflow Tool. So what this tool basically does is it allows you to call any of your other workflows. Let me go ahead and save this real quick. This agent or that tool has access to call any one of my workflows that I already have built. But in this case, I'm going to show you the one that I have built, and I'm going to build it with you, that we're going to give access to our research agent. That way it can do the proper research on the company's website and give us the summary that we need to actually draft and send that highly personalized email. All right, what we're going to do next is come into a new blank canvas, and we are going to build the tool that we're giving the research agent access to. And if you remember, we gave it a tool that says call another workflow. Well, if we go into a trigger here, how do we actually trigger this tool that we're giving it access to? Well, if you look over here on the right, when you click the plus, when executed by another workflow, runs the flow when called by the execute workflow node from a different workflow. Voila. So now what we have is a trigger that gets called upon by that agent when it decides it needs to call onto it. And the absolute first thing you're going to want to do in this trigger is take input data and change it from defined fields below and just accept any data that comes in. The next thing we're going to want to do is scrape the website, because if you remember, we told it to pass through the website URL of the inquiry. How do we actually scrape that website? Well, if you go over here to HTTP, you're going to make an HTTP request to that website to scrape it. All right, go ahead and pause the video just so you can see how we set up the website scraping tool or HTTP request. The method is going to be get. The URL we are going to change to, if you see here, it's going to come in as json.query. That is what the agent is going to, basically the field name of the URL that's going to come through. So we'll go json.query. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to send headers, and you just go ahead and pause the video and copy all of these headers. So I'll scroll down here, pause, take a screenshot, pause, take a screenshot. Now, when you download the free template, these headers are going to be already configured in this node anyway. But the reason why we send these headers over is when you're scraping a website, sometimes they block AI web scrapers because obviously it's AI. So we just send these headers over just to think that it's a real browser and a real human. That way it just increases our success rate when it comes to scraping these websites. The next thing we're going to want to do is duplicate this node. The reason why we're going to do that, as I'll explain here in a second, is not only do we want to scrape the home page of the website in case the website has an About Us page, which usually gives you a lot more detail than just what's on the home page. We're just going to scrape the About page as well. Now you might be thinking, well, what if they don't have an About page? That is going to be perfectly fine, because what we're going to do is just input or output using the error output. The reason we're going to do that is we don't want the website, or we don't want this workflow to completely break if they don't have an About. It's kind of just a thing where it's like, okay, if they have it, great. If they don't, no worries. So just to configure this node a little bit better is we don't want to use continue using error output. We want to change this to just continue. Okay, so now we have our two scrapers set up. Well, what if their website is invalid or fails? Great. So what we're actually going to do is go to Airtable here, and we're going to log that it was an invalid website or an error. So if we go here to update record, and then we're going to choose from our list, which was lead database or inbound leads, excuse me, and we're going to choose our enriched leads table. And then the only column that we care about here is, one second here, we're going to choose match on a website because that's the only bit of information that's coming through. And when we go down here, the only thing we care about is summary, and we're just going to say website invalid. All right, I'm going to show you guys something real quick, and basically it's just going to be a demonstration on why we're going to be doing the next steps that we're going to be doing. Remember, we want to test each step. So we're going to come in here, we're going to remove our JSON.query, and what we're going to do is scrape an actual website. So we're just going to do Instantly.ai, which is what we use in the example. All right, we're going to go ahead and scrape them really quick. And you can see it's going to give us what's called HTML, which is just this big, messy chunk of numbers and text and whatever you want to call this. Well, we need to make this in a way to where, one, it limits tokens, and it gives our summarizer LLM that we're going to have down the line in the workflow, so it can read it and actually form a summary based on it. So what do we do with this HTML? Well, if you go into the plus sign here and you click Markdown, convert data between Markdown and HTML. And if you see the mode here, we have Markdown to HTML or HTML to Markdown. We want to convert this HTML to Markdown. So just going to take this, drag it over here. Destination key is data. And now we have taken this ugly HTML and we've converted it to a little bit easier to understand and read Markdown, but it's still a little bit messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a custom code node here. And we're just going to get rid of, if you see here, we're just going to get rid of all the hashtags, the slashes, the URLs that don't matter, and just only keep the words. Now, how do we do that? Once again, I told you I do not know how to code, but I know what is possible with code. So we're going to go to our LLM. We're going to ask it to generate us a JSON code for an end-to-end workflow to accomplish what we're looking for. All right, here is the code that we came up with, or that our LLM came up with. Like I said, once you download the free template and everything, it's already going to be included. You won't have to worry about it. And if we execute the step, you can see it's much, much cleaner and much shorter. You can see here we went from data to cleaned Markdown, which is much cleaner. It only has words. It got rid of all those ugly hashtags and basically cut down on a lot of tokens. The original length was 18,753 tokens, and we cleaned it down to 7,619 tokens. We reduced it by 59%. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing for this About website, or this About scraper. The reason why is because it's doing the same thing and it will return the same data. We want to make sure that both are cleaned. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate, and then we're just going to press the paintbrush over there on the left, click save, and now we have our scraping system set up. We have the data from the... Now let me show you something really quick here. If we do instantly.ai/about and they don't have a page, instantly.ai, or if we misspell the error, let's say, and we're just going to force this to error just to test what would happen if it errored out. So it's going to say error invalid URL, but we don't want the workflow to stop just because they didn't have an. And if you look, we're still going to pass it through our convert to markdown. All we're going to do is change the setting here to on error continue, because we still want this to continue to pass through, because this isn't as important as actually being able to scrape the home page of the website. This is just, like I said, it's nice to have. We'll pass it through this, and it'll still say cannot convert, undefined or null object. So it still will continue on through the workflow. Well, the next step would be, now that we have two separate routes of information, we need to combine them into one route to then input them into our summarizer. Well, how do we do that? If you go over to here and you go to merge, this is how you're going to merge data of multiple streams once data from both is available. So we're going to take this input and combine them together. And if you look here, we now have two items, but it's both of our data streams put together. If you look at our bottom one, for example, cannot convert undefined or null object, basically letting us know, hey, they didn't have an about page, but we're not going to stop the workflow just because they didn't have an about page. All right, now most of you probably think the next step is to take that data and add it to our OpenAI node, which is going to be our summarizer, message, model. But what you need to do first is what happens in N8N, and when you pass it through something like a message, model, it'll take these two items right here. So you see we have two items because we merged two different data sets together, and it's going to actually output two items, or it's going to run the LLM twice. That'll eat a lot of token costs, and it just gets confusing. So all you have to do here is go over to the plus sign, click aggregate, and this is just going to combine these two together, and we're just going to name it. All right, if you see here, we now have one big item, and it's called data. So what we're going to do is come into our message a model OpenAI node. We're going to call it summarizer. And the model that we're going to choose is going to be GPT-4o, which is the absolute best copywriter, the best creative writer that exists. So if you remember, we need a system message, and then we also need a user. The system is to tell it exactly who it is and what persona it has, and then the user is just the specific set of tasks that we give it. So the role we give it, here we're just going to add a role here, is you are the world's greatest summarizer and writer when it comes to taking in scraped website data and creating the best summary possible to let your boss know more about the new lead. Now we need to give it a set of instructions. If you see here, the task we gave it was extract specific details from company data for personalized cold emails, find and include what they do, exact numbers, client names mentioned, specific features, any testimonials, integrations, ratings, and reviews. And then the format that we want is company does what, key numbers, notable clients, names, standout features, basically everything we want it to extract from this big clump of text. And then we need it to output in a summary field, be specific, include all numbers, names, and quotes found. So what's going to happen is, now that we pass this data through, we're going to execute step. It's then going to perform a summary, and we should get a detailed summary as the output. All right, so it has completed. We now have Instantly helps businesses find warm leads, scale email campaigns, and reach primary inboxes with AI optimized outreach solutions. Key numbers: over 40,000 customers, ease of use rated at 9.7, quality of support 8.5, ease of setup 8.4. You guys can continue to read it, pause the video, but as you can see, based on all this text, it generated a very, very detailed and personalized summary of the website and the company and what they do. Another thing I forgot to mention is go ahead and click output content as JSON on, because if you remember, what we wanted it to do was output in a summary field. What it did before is it had summary within the summary instead of doing content and then making a separate key called summary. So go ahead and just switch output content as JSON, and then it'll fix and it'll output it correctly how we wanted it to. So the last step of the research agents tool that we're going to do is we want to actually log that summary that our LLM came up with in our CRM. The reason we want to do that as business owners is if we book a sales call or a demo with them, we want as much information about them and their company as possible, just to seem like we took the time to research them. So we're going to go over here. We're going to click Airtable. We're going to do update a record. And we're going to go from list. Just choose the base that you created. In this case, I'm using inbound lead. And then enrich leads, it's going to map all the fields necessary. We'll go enrich leads. And then the column that we're going to choose to match on is going to be website. So the website is going to be json.query. So just copy what I'm doing here. We're going to match on a field called json.query, which is what the website's going to be passed as. So we're going to want to do parentheses. We're going to want to do the quotations, and then we're going to want to scroll down to reference the node when executed by another node. And then we're going to do .item, .json, .query. Okay, and then the summary that we're going to pass through is obviously right here, summary. And then this is going to update in our Airtable. All right, before we run this through, if you guys did change this to Instantly AI and run through the example, which I do recommend you do that just to make sure your code works and everything, we're just going to change this back to json.query. Then we're going to get out of that, and we're going to come down here and change it to json.query/about. json.query /about. All right, go ahead and make sure you're always saving your steps. We'll go ahead and refresh the page. And now we have successfully built our research agent tool. Now that we have our research agent tool set up, well, we need to hook it up to our research agent. So if you click into the call N8N workflow tool, we need to give it a description, and then we also need to make sure we call the right workflow. So what we're going to do is call on, if you look down here, we named it research agent tool. And then the description that we gave the research agent to its call N8N workflow tool is, hey, this is your research tool. Once your boss tells you to research the inquiry's website, you will use this tool to perform your research. Okay, now we have our webhook set up to capture our form. We have the manager lead prompted perfectly. We have our CRM agent set up with its proper tools. We have our research agent set up with the proper workflow tool that we gave it access to. The last thing we need to do is set up our inbound manager's ability to draft and send that highly personalized email after the lead's captured and after it receives the summary from its research agent. So we're just going to click into the tool, and we're going to set up a credential for a Gmail account. I've already done this. Like I said, I'll tell you again. Click on the pencil, go ahead and click Open Docs. It will walk you through step by step how to do it. Pause the video. Once you do that, come back to the video. All right, now that you have your Gmail account set up and your credentials set up, who we want to send the email to? Well, if you look over to our key value pair, we're going to want to send it to the email that came through. So all you're going to do is drag over email, and then the subject, we're going to let the model define the parameter, and the message, make sure, or email type, you're going to want to make sure it's text only, and then the message is let define by the model. All right, and then the other step that is very, very important is we need to know when a new lead comes through. My team, we use Discord. If you use Slack, if you use Telegram, anything, you can see here on the right side. If we go Slack, there's a Slack node. There's a Telegram node here. If you go WhatsApp, there's a WhatsApp node. But in my case, I'm going to be using Discord for this. All right, and then I want to send a message. So I'm going to come into here with my credential type. Like I said, I click the pencil, open the docs, follow the instructions to a T. And then all I'm going to do is my server, which is called input group. And then the channel is going to be called website leads. And then the message that I've decided to do is, sup boys. That's how me and my boys talk. Sup boys. New lead just came through. And then we'll map out first name, last name, company name. Let's see here. We'll do email, website, and we will do email copy. That way we can see exactly what email was sent through. Okay, now we haven't actually mapped that through yet because we don't know what the variables are going to be. So just type this out, we'll run it through, we'll execute the agent, and then we'll be able to see what the fields are to be able to map them out to complete our workflow. All right, now to test everything up until the send a message, because like I said, we don't have the fields mapped out quite yet. To make sure all of this is working exactly how it did in the demo, we're going to go back to the form, whether this is your website or you're using mock data, and we're going to fill out the form and submit it once again. All right, I have now filled out the form, but if you remember, since this is not active yet and we're using the test URL, we need to listen to a test event first. We're going to submit the form. Our webhook is going to capture the form data. And then all we're going to do, instead of clicking execute workflow, because remember, we don't have this set up just quite yet, we're going to click execute step on our manager agent. And everything should work exactly how it did in the demo. So you can see here, our record is going to be updated, or our lead's going to be updated into the CRM. We're then going to call on our research tool. So while that's happening, let's make sure, there it is. There's our lead. And then now it is calling on our workflow, and there it is. It worked. So now the research has been completed. It has been received. The summary has been received. The email has been sent. And then now what we're going to do, just to finish off the system, is we need to map all these fields out. So if we go to key value pair, we're going to drag first name. We're going to drag last name. We're going to drag email. We're going to drag website over. We're going to drag the company name over. And then we're going to drag out the output, which is the email copy. Oh, guys, I'm glad that this happened. We actually ran into an issue. This is why we do this. So instead of dragging over output for the email that we sent over for the email copy, we actually need to do something to our agent to make sure it knows exactly what to output. So what we're going to do is we need to go to require specific output format, and a little plus sign down here called output parser is going to pop up. We need structured output parser. So we're just going to delete whatever in there. We're going to do 2 curly brackets, and all we're going to do is go between them, press enter, and we're going to do key value pair. So we're going to do 2 quotation marks, and we're going to say email copy, and then we're going to do a colon, and then space, 2 quotation marks, and then we're going to type in the email that you sent to the inquiry. All right, so now what we're going to have to do is rerun through everything. No worries at all. We're just going to refresh the page here. We're going to go into our CRM. We're going to delete the lead. That way we can start from fresh. And same thing, we're just going to click execute step. All right, now that we have our structured output that we wanted to output, you can see now if we drag email copy down here, we'll just press enter here. It now is going to give us the exact email copy that it sent because we told it exactly how we wanted to output its output. All right, so that's it, guys. I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time to click on this video. I hope you learned something. Now you guys have built your first multi-agent framework system, maybe even your first system within N8N. And now I hope you can start either implementing this into your business and making more money, acquiring more clients, or you can even take this and apply it into other businesses if you're an aspiring AI entrepreneur. Go ahead. Like I said, I have my details below if you would want this into your business or something else in your business that you want automated. I have my contact information, my website down below. And like I said, I also have links below to the tools that I use. Go ahead and click those and sign up. Yeah, so leave a like. It helps me out, continue to make content and show you guys how to build different things. And stay tuned for the next one.